Hey, this is Trent Talks, and today I'm doing part 3 of things that I find interesting. You eyes don't deceive you. I'm doing two videos back to back. Um, I was meant to put more stuff in part 2, but I ran out of time because I had to do other stuff. But it's different now, and I'm gonna make a video about the stuff I was supposed to talk to you last time. Now, we talked about cryptids and prehistoric organisms last time. So we'll talk about this time more fictional stuff. And yes, your eyes and ears don't deceive you. Okay, cryptids are real. I do think so, but this is not proven yet. Um, so one character from like comics I really like is Doctor Doom. He's like one of my favorite Marvel villains. It's not a unique take. It's everyone's favorite Marvel villain. He's campy, but he's sincere. He's a sincere Marvel villain and comic book character in general. Okay. Um, but one thing that kind of annoys me, a lot of people don't understand him. Okay, because most recently, a lot of people are like point out how the trailer for the new Marvel film gets him wrong because Sue Storm is like, oh, Doctor Doom, he was always nice. He used to be nice. That's not true. If you read the comics, he was always a jerk, okay, an asshole, okay, and there was a reason for that because um his people got kicked out of a village and country. Rather than getting out of that place, his dad died. Later on, many years later, his mom went to hell. And Doctor Doom was like, I never want to be under the boot of someone. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. Okay, all that fun stuff. So Doctor Doom became an asshole. Even before he became a villain, he wasn't really a nice or cool person to be around. And like I said, that's the reason. His parents die, his people are kicked out of the country, and it kind of messed him up, you know. That's what one of my biggest concerns about the new Avengers film is this going to like try to do this stupid whole kind of feel bad for the villain thing that they've been doing, like I don't know, like since Endgame, they try and make you kind of sympathize with the villain. Doctor Doom's not really meant to, like at all. I mean, there's some things cool about him, like he cares about his parents, his people, his country, um, but he's still deep down a selfish person that has a humongous ego. So I'm concerned that the new Avengers film is going to do that stupid thing they've been doing for a while. Like I said, Doctor Doom he's a bad guy. He's not meant to sympathize with. He's evil, you know. So I'm concerned about that. Um, Now moving away from comic stuff, uh, one thing I am very interested in is like war history stuff. And one of the more interesting conflicts I learned like during high school was the Spanish American War. The Spanish American War is always a conflict I was fascinated by, even before high school, like all the way in middle school. It is not that obscure for conflict because you at least learn it at least once. But it's a very important conflict in my opinion because it's kind of the conflict that really put the U.S. on like the war stage. It's like, oh wow, this young country just defeated the great empire of Spain, like the span of like a couple of months. It's a very neat conflict I'd like to learn about more. Um, a lot of people like talk about like the Cuban feeder of the conflict. There's more of two. Okay, the one that I feel like more people need to know about is the Philippines feeder, because that's where like the majority of the fighting and battles happen. It was in the Philippines. Okay, because Spain, if you didn't know, controlled the Philippines for like multiple hundreds of years. Um, you know, and in fact, like one of the languages of the Philippines is Spanish. In fact, a lot of the names in the Philippines are Spanish, and a lot of Filipinos there have Spanish ancestry. You know, which I feel like more people need to know about because that's pretty interesting. In fact, the Spanish Empire is a very interesting thing that is taught, in my opinion, well in school, but at the same time, I don't think enough. But that's a complete. That's not here or there. Um, like I said, Spain got completely destroyed by the U.S. And it's very interesting, like learning the technology used, like the warships were like pretty modern up to that point, like having like rotating cannons and stuff. Um, like machine guns were used, bolt action rifles. Um, you know, but one thing you may ask yourself is like, well, how Spain got defeated so easily? But Spain was already declining as like an empire at that point. Not even 100 years ago, they lost the Americas for the most part, besides like Cuba and a couple of islands. Um, they still had the Philippines, and well, it's kind of about it. The 19th century is pretty rough Spain, like I said, another 100 years ago, they lost all the colonies in South America. Around the same time, Napoleon conquered and occupied Spain and make it into like a puppet government ruled by one of his family members. Spain had multiple internal civil war conflicts. It was a huge mess, and I feel like the U.S. fighting them was like the straw that broke the camel's back, and then didn't really recover from it after. It was interesting in hindsight, but that didn't really happen with Portugal. Portugal actually kept the colonies much longer than Spain. In fact, they had control of like their African colonies until the 70s. Which is pretty interesting. Um, but Portugal as a whole, I think. Um, But yeah, Spence American was pretty interesting. I wish more people talk about it more. Um, Now moving away from history stuff and back to fiction, it's a good old thing called Godzilla. Okay, and for a while, like every year of every anniversary, they have like a special short film with like costumes. It was very interesting because for a while they haven't really been using any new costumes in Japan or even American films. The last time they used suits for a Godzilla project was Final Wars. That was in 2004. But there are a bunch of misconceptions and rumors that said that the last time they used Suit Mason was the Shin Godzilla. I believed that for a while. It's actually a very common rumor. That's not true. Shin Godzilla had no Suit Mason in it. It's just really good CGI. There was an animatronic, but they never used it. Um, but for a while, uh, like in the 2020s, they've been using suits again for short films for Godzilla anniversary or anniversary to a certain film. Like, and they haven't just made like new Godzilla suits. Okay, they made suits for like Jaguar, Gigan, uh, Hedorah. Repurpose some stuff, make some new stuff. It's very cool. The short films. My favorite is probably the one with Gigan, and I am glad to pick his Soa design. And it's so awesome seeing it like like with a modern lens and effects and cameras. Like even this old like 1670s design still hold up really well in the modern day. In fact, the 70s Godzilla films are like my favorite. I know a lot of people don't like the 70s Godzilla films, but I thought they were cool. They were campy, but they got like very bloody, very gory, very crazy, very experimental. Uh, so the '70s films of Godzilla, like I won't say the gold standard of Godzilla, but it's definitely up there. Of my favorites being Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Godzilla uh, Terror of Mechagodzilla. Okay, those two. The It's a duology and it's really good. I do hope they bring back the original Soa Mechagodzilla. The '70s Mechagodzilla anniversary film because like I said, the '70s suits always look really good with a modern camera. So you know, I can help for that. Um, in fact, Terror Mechagodzilla is like my top 10 Godzilla films. It's a really good film. Um, if you want to know more about Godzilla, I say like you watch the films for yourself. The other thing I want to talk about is more cryptid stuff. So the Viagon Fourth Circle. Um, One of my favorite cryptids is the Loveland Frog and Frogman. And it's very interesting because it's just like a frog person. It's a frogman. But it's an interesting depiction seeing it's like a wizard. It's a wizard frog creature that lives in Ohio. You know. You might be like, oh, that can't be real. It's ridiculous. A wizard frog person, but to me it is. But some visitors of the story, it's like, no, he's not a wizard. He's just a frog person. Um, but I still think he's cool. It's a cool little froggy. Um, cryptid. I think it's pretty neat. I think it's pretty cool. It's the Mothman. It's not that unique of opinion. Most people like Mothman. You know, they have like a whole statue of him in West Virginia. In fact, West Virginia is like pretty famous for having a lot of cryptids. Which is pretty cool to hear because West Virginia is like a very interesting place in general. A lot of the history and the culture. Especially like Appalachia, like as an area is very ancient, hasn't really changed that much throughout the millions of years it existed. And there's just a lot of cryptid sightings over there. And the Mothman is like the most iconic and most famous out of all of them. Large scheme of things, there's not that many sightings of him compared to other cryptids, but he definitely made an impact of him like spooking some like drunk uh, people and car. I know people say, "Oh, it's actually just a big bird," but they just try to ruin the fun. Okay, he is a Mothman. Mothman is definitely real, and you're not gonna change my mind on that. Um, but yeah, and cryptid I think is interesting is a giant fresh water octopus. I heard about this one a while ago. It sounds really random because I'm pretty sure octopi, squids can't really live that long in fresh water or at all. But it is a cryptid sighting that I thought was interesting. A giant freshwater octopus. I mean, freshwater sharks exist. So it's probably not that crazy of an idea that that can exist. Um, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say.